guys know about Stone Age, right? The Stone Age did not end because they ran out of stones. People used to actually use these stones. By that time, fire had already come. People used to use these stones as weapons. People used to use these stones as hammers. So when they have meat, they're going to flatten the meat before they cook it. They used to use rocks to do that. What happened about 2500 or 25,000 years ago, 2500 BC? What happened was that they figured out the ability to use metal. That metal was bronze. They could actually do the smelting process, which basically means now they could actually create tools using metals. And once metals started taking over, the Stone Age automatically ended. The point is, it was the discovery of the ability to use fire on a particular process that completely removed the need for using those rocks as either weapons or hammers. Make sense? Digital transformation. And when I talk of digital transformation, it's very often I actually people think that, okay, I'm just talking about technology solutions. What is the next shiny thing that's coming up in the supply chain space? Let me buy it and I'm done. I'm done doing digital transformation. Digital transformation is not about technology at all. Technology is one step of digital transformation. It's just an enabler. It is about intent. It is about why are you doing this? What is the value of doing this? Why is it the right thing to do at this moment in time? If you can't answer those questions, you can buy the latest technology, but it's like if you like people talk about old wine in a new bottle, right? You can get the fanciest of technologies, but if you do it on a bad process, it's still going to be as screwed up as it was before. Yeah, sure, it's going to be screwed up better, fancy workflows, but still screwed up. Okay. So the important thing is, if you come back to this, the pillars of digital transformation, obviously you need to talk about the people. And when I say people, these are the people who may be the users or consumers of the digital transformation. Obviously, you heard me say process already about 5, 10 times. I can't not have a slide on process, right? And then we'll talk about user experience. The user experience is about, see, people, again, what happens is very often when you talk of technology, people get lost in the shiny object where they get lost in the capability itself. Because some of the capabilities we have, if you think about chat GPT or anything else that's coming up, and generative AI and all of that stuff, see, the idea is that these things are really beautiful. I'm serious. I use ChatGPT off and on sometimes for some random questions, and my God, it's like you can have the conversation, and I'm amazed. So obviously, it's still a little impersonal, but people complain that, oh, but ChatGPT content is very impersonal. Bullshit, right? In 1 year's time, they'll make it personal too. That's not rocket science at all to make it personal. So it's gonna happen. The point is, but it's not about the technology. It's about the purpose for which you use the technology. And that's where the user experience comes in. I'll expand on that when I talk about it. The next thing is actually, like I said, one of the pillars is technology, the actual technology you use and why you use it and stuff like that. And finally, we'll deal with change management because, we're all beautiful humans. We all have motivations. We all have challenges. And like if I have been doing something for 24 years and you come and tell me, like you walk and say, I'm going to make your life better. There's nobody who's, I mean, I said, why the hell? I didn't even ask you to make my life better. Why are you coming here right now? Get lost, right? So that's change resistance. We'll talk about that too. Okay, let's start with people. The first thing is this. If you are involved in any digital transformation, and let's say there's an end consumer. So like in right now, I'm doing a digital transformation around the sales compensation. Polestar is one of the partners that we're doing a lot of work. But once they deliver the solution that I'm asking them to deliver, if my team's work or job content does not change, then we haven't done shit. Nothing. We haven't done anything at all. If the job content does not change at the end of digital transformation, the digital transformation is useless. And you need to possibly stay with that thought for some time. Every digital transformation should fundamentally change the job of the people who are the users of the transformation or capabilities. And people reskilling themselves to grow in the future is not a choice. Some of you guys, let's say if you're doing, let's assume for a second that think about it, basic coding, right? Simple coding, simple software engineer doing simple coding. How many jobs like that exist anymore? Even if they exist right now, 5 years from now, they won't. ChatGPT will do a better job than anybody to write a small, will complete the entire coding of a website for you. You really need to. I mean, so now if you think about it, when ChatGPT can correct code by just looking at it, what is the role of a software engineer who's writing that code? Eventually, I think it won't happen overnight, guys, but it's going to happen. So every single one of you, regardless of where you are in your career, if you don't have the ability or don't have the intent to reskill yourself, it's very likely that you are actually, by choice, putting yourself out of a job. If that's good and you want to retire, life is good. So I mean, maybe for some people it's a choice if you can make it. But if that's not a choice and you need a job to continue with life, reskilling is something that you have to choose. There needs to be a mindset change. And this is something that happens in older companies. Maybe it does not happen in startups much, but it does happen in companies that have been there for decades or more. The reason is people get comfortable with what they do. They get really good at what they do, the way they do it. So whenever these kind of things come in, they'll find every excuse of why that's not the right thing for them. And that's almost like a victim mindset. People are not victims of digital transformation. There is a need for a mindset change to call it, okay, I'm not a victim, I'm a beneficiary. But as I said before, the reskilling, if you continue to do, you'll consider yourself a beneficiary. If you refuse to smell the roses and you don't want to reskill, you will feel like a victim. Now, your manager may be a nice person. Many companies are, let's say, not very cutthroat and they will give a lot of latitude and a lot of rope. But even companies are for profit entities. At some point in time, the bottom line will start talking. At that time, actions will be taken. The point is, how much of your life do you want to lead on somebody else's decisions as compared to your own? And when I say digital transformation, I'm not talking of one project, two projects, and all that. It's happening all around you every single day. You are just being swept by it. The important thing is learn to swim. And then let's next talk about, people think that their job is at risk. People say, oh, you automate this entire thing, then what do I do anymore? Again, come back to the same reskilling. You will do higher level work. Instead of mucking around with spreadsheets for 40% of your time, you'll use that 40% of time to come up with value added insights that you actually can share with your customers and deliver a better customer experience to your customer, whoever your end customer or stakeholder is. Actually, digital transformation, when applied right and when received right, elevates your work, makes you more valuable. It it actually gives you credence of being having a job. But one of the other things that you do apart from reskilling is you need to know, how does your job connect to the larger purpose of your company, wherever you're working? Because if you do the 40% you spend on spreadsheets, take my word for it, your CEO doesn't care. Your CEO doesn't know. Your CEO does not even have a conception of what you're doing. Then is there any value when your work is not even understood? In some way or other, you need to be able to control or connect the 4 or 5 or 6 things that you do in your job, saying that if I don't do this, the company will stop or some outcome of the company will be impeded. Yes, today you're doing it in Excel spreadsheet, but people will get smart and figure out that this can be automated. Why are we doing it with Excel? Right? The point is, do things that are IP driven, where you are actually generating intellectual property for your company. And when I say intellectual property, I don't want you to all go and put patents. Even a business analyst who's able to actually look at a set of data and say, I find these insights from it and hand those insights to the people who would want those insights, that is still IP work, in my opinion. Any work that you do, if it's, I mean, by the way, all of us will have some tasks that we have to do, which are shitty, which are non-value added. I don't know the numbers, but I would just say randomly, let that be less than 20% of your work. 80% has to be value added. Then you'll be fine.
How do you handle adjustments to incentive programs when market conditions or business priorities shift?
Yeah, actually, the idea is that as we speak right now, the project that I'm doing is exactly addressing that. What happened is we had very, very rigid systems where it's almost like people assume that sales compensation plans are done once a year and you can't change it during the year and all that, and have developed systems with that limited mindset. But I agree with you, because the idea is that let's assume that we are doing, we assume that, let's say, our ultrasound business will do $100 this year. But by the end of the middle of the year, we've done only 40. And the leader says, you know what, maybe we overestimated. There's too many headwinds in the market. I don't think we'll be able to do more than 40 next 6 months. But I do not want to lose my sales people because it's not their doing. The headwinds are in the market. There's a supply chain, something else happened. All of these reasons are contributing to our inability to meet our annual operating plan. At that time, you should actually have capabilities. And this is where you put yourself in the shoes of the sales leader. You should have capabilities that say, you know what, I can help you. For the first 6 months, whatever has happened has happened. Let me reduce their quota for the second half of the year, give them the opportunity. For the entire year, you reduce the quota to, let's say, 85 as a stretch or 75, whatever, right? You retain your salespeople, you keep them motivated, you're showing them that you are helping them in places where it's beyond their control. However, in all of these processes, it's not you don't do it blanket. There has to be a governance. Like, let's say 60% of salespeople are meeting their quota, but one person is not, we don't change it for that one person. It has to be a market or business or a very specific outside of our control impetus that actually should allow for mid-year plan changes. However, as capability development people or as people working in the technology sector, it is our responsibility to make sure that we think of those scenarios and be ready.
Was a victim of digital transformation. What could it, or for that matter, any victim of digital transformation have done to become a beneficiary?
Okay, I will talk a little bit about this when we come to the change management. And again, the idea
Right.
is that what we're dealing with here is a person's feelings. Remember one thing, none of us have the power to change somebody's mind. Actually, the only thing you do is you can explain what it is. You can try to give all the possible reasons with the understanding of what that person is going through, try to get them off that train of thinking to something else. Some people will make the journey, right? Will cross the bridge. Some people will not. And whatever follows will follow. But the idea is, yes, there are things that you can do. It's almost like, if everybody in the call is Indian, let's assume that if you know the Bhagavad Gita, right? Doing the karma is your job, not the result. So what we can do, I'll talk about it during change management and a few other things, right? But the
Right.
point is, you can make this conversion happen, but you can't control it. And what I mean by that is, you can do all the best things that you can do, and there are a few things that every one of the people who's implementing digital transformation can do, but you may or may not be able to control the full outcome.
Yeah.
That's been my experience, and also that's my belief. And like whoever said the philosophy, right? There's a guy called I think Seneca, right? They talk about this theory called Stoicism. One of the fundamental principles of Stoicism is focus on only what you can control. So, as people who are doing this digital transformation, let's focus on the change management. Let's focus on explaining the benefits. Let's focus on maybe talking about the impacts of not doing it. So, again, one more Indian reference: Sam, Dam, Dand, Bhed. Sam is where you explain. Dam is where you give them some benefits, which means by doing this, you're going to save 4 hours of your week. You can do something else better with it. Done is, okay, don't do it, you're losing your job. Okay. Pain is, okay, you know what? We've done everything under the sun for you. You're not listening. So, you know what, dude? We can show you what happens to the other people who've taken this journey, and you can figure out why your career journey is looking different because, well, you haven't adopted things. The point is, I'm not saying that which is Samdam Danpir is generally used in political bad or negative situations. I'm using it in a positive situation. Take positive actions that align with either convincing somebody, rewarding somebody, or punishing somebody, which is a rare thing. Don't do it unless it's absolutely essential, right? Which I hope is never. Okay. And separation, I mean, bait you can do always, because if somebody is refusing it, you can still go ahead, show the benefits with other people who are adopting it. And let's say if one country decides not to adopt something, 6 countries adopt, and the 6 countries are showing benefits, the one country will look like a fool. Possible.
Yeah.
And it happens. Okay.
Yeah. And you perfectly are talking about the 5 pillars that we were talking about. Apart from that, I think there are 2 more things which you can add over here. One is the strategy part of it, which you also mentioned, right? Why you want to do it, what benefits are going to take out of it, what happens if you don't do it, right? And
Mm.
second part is the data part, right? Which is around, which this specific question around Nokia may have not seen through the
Mm.
eyes of data that what kind of phones are coming in. It's moving towards from feature phone to a touch phone. how good an Apple would be in coming years, so and so forth. There could be thousands of questions that could have answered using data.
Right.
Another question, last question, and then we'll move on with your slides, Prasad, is the growing utilization of AI, automation, and chat GPT contributing to the downsizing of sales workforce?
Uh, Actually, now that's a very interesting question, but I don't know. I haven't thought through it, so I will give my opinion on the spot because I haven't thought about ChatGPT and reduction of workforce really yet. But let's plan it. If you think about large scale purchases of a, let's say, like for instance, if I have to sell hospital equipment worth $5 million, there's no ChatGPT in the world which can replace the relationship my account manager has with the hospital administrator. That role is not replaced by ChatGPT, not today, not ever. Maybe it can be optimized by it, but never replaced. However, forget about ChatGPT, but let's talk AI. I think ChatGPT is slightly out of context on that one. ChatGPT can hopefully do some support and some bots and
Yeah.
stuff like that. But let's talk about AI. As an example, all companies which sell hardware products have service contracts. Whenever you have hardware, if you have a car, you will buy the extended warranty, or if you're buying the fridge, you will buy the 5-year warranty or 4-year warranty. Those are service contracts, right? Now, all service contracts have timelines, which means they all will come up for renewal sometime or the other. Okay. Now, if you build the intelligence in your system, and this is not even AI, by the way, this is very deterministic. This does not even require AI. This requires plain old-fashioned coding. But if I know that with my installed base, I know that there are 6 service contracts that are coming up for renewal in the next 1 year, and these service contracts need to be renewed because the products are still in service and will be in service for the next 5 years. And the value of this, but if I have to go with a salesperson to chase every service contract, some of them are less than 25,000, some of them are greater than 25,000. Now imagine this: if a salesperson has to spend 1 month chasing a $5,000 service contract, you're not making any money, right? So you can say that for anything less than $20,000, I can have an automated workflow that automatically will send a renewal contract to the customer. If the customer wants to talk to somebody, at that time we'll initiate the conversation. If the customer is saying, "Oh, I'm so happy you guys sent it. I'm very click the button." You just earned the money without spending a penny. You spend a penny on the technology backbone, but you don't spend a penny in the sales. The sales cost over a period of time will become negligible. Okay. Now that is absolutely possible. Actually, we actually have already done it in previous companies. So that is possible with technology. But there will be some, it depends on when you think about sales roles, right? There are sales roles that are about the amount of influence they have on the selling activity. And if that influence is driven also by proximity or by relationship, you
Yeah.
can't replace those roles. Okay. But
Right.
I mean, it's a far more nuanced answer we can give. But there will be some sales roles that may not even be required in the future. And there will be some sales roles which are always required in the future. Okay. Yeah. So let's get to, because we have a lot more content to go. So let's
Yeah.
go
Let's
into
move
the
on.
few more things. So one of the other things is this, I won't spend too much time on this slide, but if you are experiencing digital transformation as an individual, like I talked about reskilling, right? Just wanted to expand on that a little bit. First thing is, whatever you do, develop mastery. Don't do a job for the sake of doing the job. Know the job, feel the job. And if you're not feeling the job, find the job you feel. And make sure you get paid properly. Okay. Don't give up jobs without understanding why you're giving up the job. Okay. The second thing is find autonomy. And when I say autonomy, I'm saying what are the things that you can do on your own where you don't need any hand holding from your manager, your colleague, your friend, whatever, right? And how can you, there's a term, you guys can Google this later. It's called job crafting. All of us, like I said, have parts of our job that we don't like. But how can you craft your job to maximize the amount of tasks that you do that you like and minimize the number of tasks that you don't? How do you find ways either of eliminating those tasks or delegating those tasks or doing something with those tasks? That autonomy and control that you can demonstrate on your job, it's your job, guys. You can do it. The idea is that you need to know that you can do it. You need to have the agency to make that decision. But as best as possible, find companies and places where you can find that autonomy. And finally, everything that you do, like I said in the previous thing, align with the higher purpose of the company. Okay. I'll leave this slide deck with you guys. Later, you'll understand what this content is. By the way, if any of you guys are really interested in automation and digital transformation and everything else, find some videos by Jeannie Ross. She's, at least I saw her live. She doesn't have too many videos, but she's just fundamentally outstanding in terms of her clarity. So let's now come to process. So deep understanding of process outcomes. Why are we doing this? Who are we serving? What is the value in it for them? What is the value of doing something? What is the impact of not doing it? Right? Don't start anything without knowing this. Okay. The second thing is, okay, fine, I am done with this digital transformation. How am I going to measure this? How do I know I was successful? Yeah, sure. The tool is tiny. The number of issues around uh, what downtime and all that have gone away, but that's all very basic stuff. One thing I'll tell you about projects is it's very easy for a lot of people to come back with projects that actually do bottom line savings, meaning, oh, I optimized this, what do you call that, 10 people who are doing the job, we need only 8. Okay, that's right. Okay, so that's fine, that's saving, but that's nothing. Most of the time, you need to always look at your value realization on 3 or 4 different parameters. The first one is top line. Is what I'm doing actually going to accelerate and add velocity to my selling? The second thing that you want to do is, okay, fine, is it going to give me bottom line savings, which is optimization, time saving? Then you can also look at things like speed to market, which means, is it reducing cycle time? What used to take 10 days is taking 2 days. Okay. So these three apart, right, which are more rational, which are easily measurable. The fourth one is an experiential one. Is it fundamentally changing? Like, for instance, we do a lot of things. Today, let's say my sales team spent far too much time chasing my team on commissions, where they're not convinced that they were paying them right. Now, with all the automation that we are planning in the next 6 months to 7 months, the number of cases will go down. And actually, I anticipate that they don't need to chase us so much because we are building all the transparency, all that reporting, and all the clarity into the tools that we are building. My outcome there is I don't want my salesperson to spend time chasing me on commissions because they already trust it. And creating that process is my job. Now, that may help me save, let's say my salesperson is spending 4 hours a week. And now let's say I make it 1 hour a week. In the 3 hours I save to my salesperson, whether they go and play golf or they cook at home or they actually go and sell, I don't know. I don't control that. But have you removed the friction from your end customer's experience? As long as you can measure that, sometimes don't try to monetize it. I can go and say, oh, 1 hour of a salesperson is worth $100, which means for every salesperson in every week, I'm saving $300. Like, I can say that, right? That costs about, I'm saving $20 million. No, don't do that ever, because you don't know that whether it's converted like that, right? Because for some salespeople, you may have saved only 2 minutes. For some salespeople, may have saved 20 hours. You don't know anything about that. So the idea is that sometimes don't try to monetize everything and convert it into dollars and cents. Not worth it. And keen awareness of diminishing marginal utility. I'll give you an example. Among all the processes we do in sales compensation, the last process is we calculate commissions. We decide that these 100 people are going to get paid some amount of money. We put that in a file and we send that to ADP to upload it to the check, so that my salesperson gets it in their bank account. That process takes one of my team members. The actual process of sending that file to ADP takes up one of my team members about 15 minutes every month. Okay. That's like 180 minutes, 3 hours in a year. One person. Now, if somebody says that, okay, if somebody gives me a connector, which is like I can configure that in 2 hours and I'm done, I will do the project. If somebody tells me that, you know what, we can do this ADP connection, but it will basically take us, let's say, 3,600 hours of effort. I'm just making this up. Right? They have to write some API, we have to write some API and all of that stuff. Let's assume all of that happens. 3,600 hours is 50x. So which means my return on investment is 50 years. So actually, let's make it 1,800 hours. The return on investment is 10 years. Why would I spend it? I would rather spend 15 minutes. I'm sure my team will have 15 minutes to spare every month, right? One person in my team. So you need to understand that automation is not the answer for everything. Let some things remain manual because they're not even worth automating. Make sense? Till let's assume that ADP and Anaplan both come up with beautiful connectors where it's automatically integrated and you don't need to do anything. You just configure and move on with life. Wait for the day. Let them do the product integration. I am not interested. You guys with me so far?
Yeah, we have done that for you, Prasad, by the way. So we have an utility which can talk ADB and
I
Anaplan,
know.
both of them.
That's good. So yeah, I think share it with Mohammed and we'll take it from there. Okay.
Sure.
Okay. Yeah. And so the idea is that this actually is a very important one. See, this comment by Eric Ries, right? We must learn what the customers really want, not what they say they want or not what we think they should want. So there is a famous quote by uh, Henry Ford. He said, if I asked my customers what they wanted, they would have told me they wanted a faster horse. Okay. The point is, there are times when you need to have the right method to understand what the customer is asking you. Just because they say something, that doesn't become a requirement. And unless you develop the mastery of your customer's process and understanding, and you develop a process of seeking requirements, asking questions, following the Socratic method of, okay, so what, or why, then you'll actually get to the core of what the real need is. So, I mean, for the last several years, I mean, since the time 2007, I never ask anybody what they want. I just said, okay, can you please explain your business to me? What are you doing? And why are you doing it? What is the outcome? And then you arrive at the capabilities. Never ever take a direct capability requirement from your end customer. Take a business problem and a business need. And then you actually will potentially have better outcomes. Okay. And this is what Bill Gates said, automation applied to an inefficient operation will actually magnify the inefficiency. Okay. So and because I just put some of these comments there so that you guys can sort of think through it. Now, but I'll keep moving because we are almost like 20 minutes there. Luckily, we are only about 2 slides away, so we are not that bad off. Okay, we have about, I think I'll be done in about 5 minutes, and then the rest of the time we can do questions. Okay, let's not do any questions anymore till the time we
Sure.
have finished. Let's talk about user experience. Okay, understanding the areas of friction in the user experience. Like when my sales team has to follow up with me to follow up of why they got paid $10 in commission and not 20. That's the friction. That's they say that, why do I have to follow up? Why did this transaction that I am not supposed to be hit by hitting me? That's friction. That's very, very important to find those areas of friction, find the root causes and remove them from the user experience. And that's why I said when you're working on Anaplan, let's say for my company, right, you're not working for me, you're not working for Mohammed Sanjay or anybody else. You are working for the Philips salesperson who never knows that you're working for them. Or if you're doing a capability that's more for my territory management guy, you're working for that guy, not for me. The point is you need to put yourself in the shoes of the user who's experiencing what you're developing. Don't develop a capability for capability's sake. Develop the capability for the human. The next thing is mapping the user journey, right? And their outcomes. What are they looking for? How are they doing it today? What is their motivation? Right? You have to, for every, like for instance, you guys have all heard the words of persona and all that, right? How many personas are involved in this process? And what is their value add to the process? What is their journey? What is their expectation from this journey? Are they even interested in going on this journey? Right? Those are the kind of things that we need to really know to be able to actually solve the problem. Okay. And design around the customer need. That's as simple as I can. I don't even need to explain that to you guys. Right. So the thing is, customers' experience must remain the focus of all transformation. Again, if you look at it, this is from Jeff Bezos. By the way, Amazon is an amazing company. And not in terms of maybe from whatever I've heard, it's not that easy to work in Amazon. However, when you are a customer of Amazon and you have a problem, the way they deal with you is not, it's like ridiculously good. I go into my app, I say I have a problem. They try to solve it by asking a few questions. They've gotten very intelligent about it. But if you just go through all of it and make it, let's say, within a minute or two to the end, they'll say, okay, we'll call you. And you always inadvertently, no, without exception, I received a call within the same minute. And then they'll talk to you. They'll explain the policy if they are not able to support you, but 90% of the time they'll support you with whatever you are doing. I mean, that entire thing, I mean, he's like so obsessed just because around customer. If you must see many of his videos where he talks about the customer, I mean, he's like in my time, the way he's set up the company as completely around the customer and their experience is like ridiculous. I mean, so that's basically what you want to emulate We can't do it at that scale, but every single thing that we do, if we are able to at least inculcate some of those principles, will be in a better place. Technology, I mean, like for instance, technology choices. Don't get married to a technology. Actually, be like agnostic, right? It's about you. Okay, is it serving the purpose? Is it the right way to serve the purpose? Yeah, sure. Then take the technology. You shouldn't be married to a ecosystem, a technology. Oh, Anaplan is the answer. I don't know what the question is. Okay. So, but be very sure in terms of having a level of dispassion when you are making technology choices. The second thing is fit for purpose. Again, that I won't talk about it. Just Google fit for purpose. You'll get 200,000 videos on that. Total cost of ownership. You have to always remember this. People sometimes invest in technology. They assume that, okay, I spent this $1 million. I get this project out of the way. There's no expense. Actually, that's not true. In many, many cases, the cost of running it is sometimes missed out by people when they're estimating value add. What they don't realize is, okay, if you invest, but it costs 500,000 to run it every year, you have to consider all of that over a period of 4 or 5 years to figure out whether you have a return on investment on this or not. Eventually, unless it's a foundational change, like if you're doing an ERP system like SAP and Oracle, even there you look for value. But most of our optimization or operations tools that we implement actually have to show value, either on top line or bottom line. And that value has to be greater than your investment over a period of years. And you also need to know whether you're going to have your return on investment or break even within the next 3 or 4 years, depending on the level of investment. For most small optimization investments, you need to have the break even within the year. Many times when I was investing in optimization on top, let's say I was doing Oracle and we had to implement one small additional workflow. If I don't get the return on investment in terms of time saved or whatever else within the 12 months, I don't invest. I'll find projects where I can get the return on investment in 12 months. But for large transformations, you can go beyond 12 months, but it can't be like ridiculous. So you'll have return on investment in 10 years. In 10 years, the entire technology landscape will be done. Tools get replaced in 6 or 7 years. So you need to know that you are in the money by the second or third year. Okay. And technology is the means, not the end. I'm completely agnostic to the tools I use. Today, I may talk about Anaplan. 6 years from now, I may talk about some other tool. But as long as I know that that tool is actually going to meet my customers' needs better than whatever tool I have at that time. Okay? Yeah. It's a philosophy, not a project. Whoever the philosopher is. Okay. And then let's talk about change. And this is what we talk. Okay? Change resistance is real. Here is where you actually are dealing with emotions. You're not dealing with, I mean, it's not rational conversations many times. I can go and say that, you know what, this is the best thing that happened since sliced bread. People won't believe me if the comfort level they have with doing their job where they can do it in their sleep and you're appending it. Because, like I said earlier, if you're doing a digital transformation, their job is going to change. So you're appending the way they do it. Sometimes they've done it for 10 years, 5 years. It's a very, very emotional decision. I don't blame people for having the resistance. But there has to be a point where you know that uh, it may not be a it may not even be a decision that they have in their hands. However, as people who are driving it, we have the responsibility of clearly articulating the what's in it for them, what's in it for me. Okay. Clearly articulating the value, clearly articulating the impacts, and then you may be in a better chance of at least converting 80% of the people to the thing. Okay. And that's what I'm saying. Impacted groups have to consistently communicate, consistently engage, actually make them part of the design process. Sometimes one of the reasons why change resistance gets even more is either you engage them too late or you use communication and engagement as a convincing mechanism as compared to a integration mechanism. So I would actually say if you anticipate that at this project, even when you're just putting the charter together, you say, I expect resistance to come from group X. Go to the group X leader and say, we are trying to do this, but we want you in this. If we don't want to do it without you, make it their project. You'll still run into issues, don't get me wrong, but do all of that work upfront so that you actually are in a better position to succeed. Because your intent is to make your company better, succeed, not for personal gain, but to make things better for your company. So in that context, I think try more integration and then do the communication and engagement. Okay. Persistence, right? All of you, if you are in this business, persistence is very, very important. I'll tell you a story. In June of 2021, I went to this. place called Anaplan Live. I went on stage, I presented how great we're doing stuff in Philips and all of that stuff. Now, so some of the stuff that I presented was already done, and some of that was already planned. So I said, okay, in 2 months or 3 months, we will be at this place. So I painted a great vision of where we should be. What we are working on right now with Polestar is exactly the same thing still, 2 years later. We failed. The reason was that we didn't anticipate some headwinds. First of all, we didn't anticipate how crapped out our original implementation was. But more importantly, we also didn't anticipate how much time it will take to actually get the right kind of requirements and the right kind of information from our people, because they've never been used being integrated into projects like this. So then what we did is we went back to the drawing board, got our teams together, actually started documenting, made them part of the design, and it's still work in progress. Okay. So, but the idea is that, but now there are some other company changes that have happened which accelerated the thing. I know that in the next 6 months, we'll definitely, what I presented 18 months back will actually, where I thought it will be live in 4 months, will be live in exactly 24 months or 22 months from the time I presented it. It is what it is. No harm, no foul. But the point is, maybe there I was far more excited about what we can do than actually we had the ability to do. Okay. So stuff happens. Yeah, remain positive and hope for the best. So, in summary, okay, this is, I think, the full message of everything that I said is if any of the things that I said today make you think, we are in a good place. Even if you don't need to agree with everything I said, by the way, the important thing is this. Even if they make you think, agreement or disagreement, and you have a logical reason to agree or logical reason to disagree, you're in a good place. My job is never to convince anybody. I don't convince anybody. I don't need to. My job is to say what I believe. Okay. And people can take it and make their own. You can probably create your own sentence around this. And this is what it is. And the reason why we have to focus on all the people, the process, and this and that, and technology, the choices, total cost of ownership, and everything, all of those different things that I used in the last 20 slides, when it's done right, it's the metamorphosis, right? Or like turning a butterfly. But if it's done wrong, you'll have a fast caterpillar. This is somebody, George. Okay, we have seen it where we keep talking about MVPs, but never deliver the final product. And we never feel the pleasure of what we are trying to achieve. And that's the reason why, I mean, I worked in companies where we keep talking about MVPs. By the time you're done with the MVP, people are out of money and they have nothing left. If that's the state you think you will be in, don't take the money. Don't even bother. Right? It takes a level of dispassion to say, guys, either give me $2 million or nothing at all, or commit 3 years in writing or nothing at all. Forget it. We don't need it. Because the point is, if you don't get the full investment that you actually need to deliver the right product and you just stop at MVP, sometimes MVP are 60-70% products. They will never live up to the potential. So again, digital transformation is a mindset. It's about a series of decisions, technology being one. But it's about the right way of doing things. It's about being very decisive about why you're doing something and when you choose not to do it. All of these things, I think, will potentially, I mean, it's a huge practice, but I think, in my opinion, that is where you will potentially find the benefits you seek. And
Ah, like in the last you mentioned, the change management part, which is very, very important in terms of making any initiative successful, be it the digital transformation or any other per se, right? Uh, that's where we have also found in the salespersons would ideally want to have a real-time dashboard of their payouts or incentives. So during compensation planning, how easy or difficult is it for companies to create such a dashboard? And if they do so, does it run the risk of complacency at some point of time during the year?
actually, there are two questions here, right? Frankly, I first implemented sales compensation program or a tool in something called Oracle Incentive, Oracle OIC, right? Oracle Incentive Compensation in 2007. Since 2007, in Cisco, we were publishing daily. Daily. Order comes in, it shows up in the enterprise data warehouse within the next 1 hour, but the commission calculation happens through a series of jobs overnight. So the job started at 10 o'clock in the night, end at 2 o'clock in the morning. By next morning, the salesperson, if you book something today, very likely you'll see it next day. Now, obviously, as businesses grew and business became more complex, some days we missed out our daily thing, but most of the time the expectation was daily. Okay, that's one. Can it be done? Absolutely, it can be done. End of the day, sales compensation is a series of calculations. If you have your data quality and all of those checks and balances in the right place, it's easy enough to do it. That's one. But risk of complacency, it is actually a design question. What you're asking me is, so how do you make sure that there's no risk of complacency? Like for instance, in many compensation plans, there's no cap. If there's no cap, the earning potential is unlimited. So there's no complacency at all. But in case you tell them that, okay, you know what, you sell services, but we will not pay you more than 150, $100 is what you will get paid if you get all of your target. But even if you exceed your target, I won't pay you more than $150. The moment they get paid $150, they'll stop. So there is risk of complacency, but it's a design question. Depending on how the plan is designed, you may be inducing complacency, or you may be okay with the complacency, or you may not have the complacency. It's all a very plan dependent thing. But yes, it is possible that it happens. But that's exactly why sales comp design is a very big activity. Okay.
Right. Right.
Mm.
I think there are two parts to it. One is obviously the sales compensation design part, and second is, do you actually want to automate daily basis the incentive calculations? I think basically, if we do it, even if we do it monthly, I think that would be a good automation. Ultimately, the incentives are going to be paid out monthly. There may be some scenarios of some industries where it's paid out daily, but that would be very rare.
Aiming for daily. We'll have a separate conversation because I actually disagree with you, my friend. Okay, but we'll talk about that later.
As I said, there could be some scenarios, yes.
Yeah.
Next
So
one, digital transformations provide more transparency to the incentive programs. However, in some scenarios, it might not be 100% reliable solution due to some unforeseeable market situations or technical faulties, which are not feasible to capture in system. Data unavailabilities at granular level.
yeah.
How to make incentive? Sorry, just a minute. How to? Oh, no.
Yeah, how do you
Sorry.
make it more robust? Actually,
Incentive more robust
I'm reading the question in the I'm reading the question in the chat.
Yeah,
It's a
yeah.
very good question. Okay, so let me tell you what I think we need to think about here. I'll address number two question first. Let's assume I launched a new product, right? A new product, let's say new ultrasound machine, which flies to the patient. The point is, I don't know how many hospitals will be interested in that product. But as part of the planning process, you have to set a quota. And now, in that case, scenario, if you set the quota too low, what will happen is you end up overpaying people. If you set a quota too high, but then you may end up underpaying people, so people will demotivated.
Yes.
But in both of these cases, you first of all, you don't even have the intelligence or the information of what the opportunity is. In those kind of situations, do not put a quota on that element at all. Pay them a bonus for the number of units sold. Every time you sell a unit, Babu, I'll give you 2%. Take it. Then what happens is you remove the risk, Ayush, for the question you asked. That's why if data is unavailable, don't put it in the plan. You can't put it in a measurable plan if the data is unmeasurable. Now, unforeseeable market conditions is easy. We have an executive compensation committee in our company where when exceptional situations happen, we take exceptional actions in terms of where we may forgive some debooks, or we may pay some advance money, or we may do something like that. But when some situations like that happen, even which we also don't know, when you say it's unforeseen, even I can't foresee, right? So when in those kind of situations, we have governance processes where somebody can get the case and we will discuss it. We'll understand what the situation is. We'll understand whether it was outside of the salesperson's control. And if it was, we absolutely will protect it. And actually, I think it's just about 7 o'clock. I know what I'll do is continue to put any questions you have in the chat. Okay. I'm reading all the questions right now. What I'll do is I'll take all the questions, put it in a Word document, and possibly give a little bit of a description. Or what I may do is actually sometimes if I don't feel like writing, I'll write down all your questions. And for each question, I'll give you a verbal answer in a video, in a Teams recording or WebEx recording, right?
Awesome.
And that way you can have it. Awesome, right?
Sure. Yeah.
So put whatever questions you have in the chat. I'll compile them. I'll combine them also because some of the questions are the same. So I'll do the job of combining them, consolidating them, and I'll give you a 2-minute response to each question, and we are done with whatever it is.
Sure. Thank you so much, Prasad, for your time over here. And it was really, really insightful. Understanding a domain which deep enough is sometimes missed during these kind of webinars, but you've done that beautifully. Thank you so much for that. And
Yep, yep.
thank you, team, for joining and asking questions and be more interactive over here. Thanks.
Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks.